Welcome to Ghostly.
Is the St. Augustine Lighthouse haunted?
Ghostly is a podcast that comes out every other week. In each episode, we take a ghost story or paranormal event and look into its complete history. Rebecca then gives us evidence proving that the story is real. And my job is to debate those pieces of evidence and get you, the listener, prepared to vote on if it's real or not. If you haven't yet, please hit that subscribe button. And as always, we're your host. I'm Pat.
And I'm Rebecca.
So how have you been, Rebecca?
It's been an exciting week.
Yeah.
If that is that the word that we should use for your experience this week?
Yeah, I was part of a tornado. Tornado hit my house and caused some damage. I mean, not like catastrophic damage or not even where, it's not livable or anything like that.
Right.
But just enough where it's like, wow,
what a pain.
Great.
Yeah. And craziness.
Yeah.
Do you want to, I don't know, like what can you say about the experience of living through a tornado?
Oh, well, I mean, so the sirens went off and I took my cats into the bathroom and waited for the sirens to stop. And once they stopped, I went out and it was like 5 minutes later, everything just got eerily quiet. Like a spooky kind of quiet, like almost a ghostly kind of quiet.
Yeah.
And then this hail that was like way out of control. It was like coming down
boom,
super
boom,
hard.
Boom,
yeah.
Boom, boom, boom. Okay.
And then I heard the moaning of the trees. It's like, and then all of a sudden, boom. Not a crash, but a boom. Took out a bunch of windows. It did a bunch of things, but I never heard the crash of the windows. It was all at the exact same time.
It's crazy. And there were more than two. I mean, two on the property. Trees came down, but just trees all around the neighborhood.
All around. Yeah, no one can get to my place. So if I needed an ambulance, I don't know what they would have done.
Yeah.
Helicopter, maybe?
Maybe. Come through the yards, I guess. But yeah, very dramatic.
Yeah.
Glad you are okay. Glad everyone is okay. No one was physically hurt.
Nobody was hurt, no.
So,
but
never a dull moment.
No, definitely
in the
not.
lives
Definitely
of Ghostly.
Not. It must be because I'm a skeptic. That's the reason why.
All right. Well, let's. What are we going to talk about today?
Yeah, we're going to be talking about the St. Augustine Lighthouse. Very interesting. Supposedly one of the most haunted places in the world. I had picked this episode. Rebecca had picked the last episode, the Walt Disney episode. We're going to talk about that in a second.
Mm-hmm.
But I picked this episode, and it seems to be there's a lot of ghost stories.
I am excited for all the ghost stories, yes.
Yeah. So we're just going to get into it then. Let's just do the shout-outs. There are two ways to get a shout-out on Ghostly. The first way is to give us a review on Apple Podcast. We got one of those. And we prefer the 5-star reviews. This is not one of those. But we're going to read any and all reviews that we receive. The second way is to become a member on Patreon. Just go to ghostlypodcast.com and click on Patreon in the menu bar. We have a lot of different tiers to choose from, and we try to make it fun with our Ghostly X live stream every month.
Absolutely. And, depending on your level, you can either attend it live or you can listen. And if you're interested, we had Jacob Mayfield on Ghostly X.
The Jacob
Mayfield on our Ghostly X last month. It was so much more. I mean, I knew it was going to be fun. I knew it was going to be great, but I did not realize how much fun and how great it was.
Yeah.
He can talk about tarot cards forever.
And I could listen forever.
Like it was so I had more questions and I was like, we only got an hour. Like we have to limit what we can talk about, but it was so interesting. I mean, obviously he's here helping with his book, Tarot Odyssey. Yeah. But honestly, he went beyond that.
Oh, yeah. He just wanted to hang out, too.
He just wanted to hang out. It was great. So if you join Patreon, you'll be able to listen to that. Plus, 40 plus other Ghostly X
There's got to be by now.
Episodes.
Yeah.
On all sorts of fun stuff. There's interviews with the ghostly guests. There's our Secret Society series.
It was really fun.
Lots of fun stuff. Yeah. Anyways, we hope you check it out.
I was thinking about doing one on relics.
Oh, the reliquary.
Yeah, biblical relics.
Yeah, we got lots of ideas out there.
Yeah. Okay, but we do have a review. Rebecca, can you read that for us?
Sure. The Disney episode was such a letdown.
Oh, you got to read the title first.
Oh, I can't read. I can't see.
Is this a ghost podcast or a history podcast?
Sorry.
Question mark.
I had to put my cursor on it. Is this a ghost podcast or history podcast? That Philly chick 32, 2 stars.
Yeah.
Now, before I even finish reading the thing, are we a ghost podcast or a history podcast?
Well, there is no actual category for a ghost podcast.
Right.
So we are under a history podcast because of that. Now, if there was, I would have made it a paranormal, and it would be the same exact podcast that we have.
Yeah. I think we're both. But but okay, so it's 2 stars. The Disney episode was such a letdown. 30 minutes on the biography of Walt Disney and like 10 minutes or less on actual paranormal discussion. Shouldn't have been about Walt's life story. Where were the ghost stories?
Well, I mean, that's the thing. It's and I did not pick this one out. So, I mean, you would think that the skeptic would pick out the one that's more history focused, but I didn't pick this one out. Sometimes the history is going to be bigger than the ghost stories. Sometimes the ghost stories are going to be bigger than the history. We don't know until we start digging into it, what we're going to come up with. And we each write our script separately. Mm-hmm. So I have no idea how much Rebecca is going to be presenting until we sit down and hit record.
We don't like show each other our notes before. I mean, if there's a few things that we think might overlap or whatever, we might chat about it. But for the most part, you do your thing, I do mine.
Absolutely.
And I will say, I was actually disappointed in the Walt Disney ghost stories because there just weren't that many.
But that happens sometimes. It's, you hear about it and it gets a lot of hype and stuff because the Walt Disney ghost gets a lot of hype, but there just isn't that much evidence for it, though.
And the thing about it is there's a lot of ghost stories for Disney, like Disney World or Disneyland, but that wasn't the topic.
And we might want to do that at a later time.
Exactly. Because to me, I don't like, to be honest, in preparation for that episode, I listened to some other podcasts and I watched some YouTube, whatever, and they would say that they were about Walt Disney, as in the man himself.
But they're about Disney World.
But they were really
Disneyland.
about the actual parks.
Yeah.
So,
and, for me, doing the history of it, there was just so much I have to say. It's like, I look through it and I think of what do I have to say to do a complete history, to give people a complete idea without going into speculation or anything like that. Mm-hmm. So I try to give as best I can. Yeah.
I mean, anyways, we appreciate the feedback. Obviously, sometimes it goes that way and we always will, we will strive to do better.
Absolutely.
By getting things with more ghost stories. And Absolutely. I think today we did that.
I think so too. Even though I don't know the ghost stories, but I know the history, and I think that you probably have more history than I have ghosts. I mean, you have more ghost stories than I have history. That's what it is.
Yep, that's the way. All right, let's get into listener mail. Let's get into some ghosties. So this one is sent in by Nikki. Thank you so much, Nikki. And actually, this is such a long, it's one of those like haunted, like my house is haunted stories that is so long. I broke it up into several parts. So we'll get to them all. Obviously we always say, you never know, something could come up for the next episode, but we'll get to them all.
Yeah.
But we're going to start, with the first part.
All right.
Dear Rebecca and Pat, the first house my husband and I bought together was, and she gives her specific address. I don't think they still live there, but just in case, I'm just going to say it's in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
I've been there.
Yes. It was in bad shape when we bought it. We moved in, and 2 weeks after that, we had our first baby. That's crazy. She says, haha, I don't remember anyone ever doing that. I agree. I was home a full-time mom with baby A. We had a dog and a cat too. Daddy was working full-time downtown. I'm assuming daddy means her husband.
Yeah, the baby's daddy.
Baby's daddy.
Yeah.
Okay. When we came to look at the house, one of the neighbors saw us in the backyard with our agent and asked if we were going to buy it. We said maybe. Then he told us it would be good to see us there. The last owner was a crazy old lady who lived with a ton of cats running in and out all the time and several large dogs that never went out. Yikes. It all showed too, but we were young and a little desperate to buy after looking for months and totally stupid about how much work it was going to take to make this house a home. There were gorgeous treasures inside, though. Original leaded glass windows, built-in bar with stained glass doors, bookcases beside the decorative fireplace with the same stained glass in the doors, and mantle windows, original hardwood floors and doors throughout, a huge kitchen pantry, and the basement was big enough for a circus to set up in.
Wow.
I saw all this and just felt the potential of it all. If this building just got the TLC it deserved. The inspector said the bones were solid. My husband can never say no to me. He loves me too much. We bought it and moved in at the end of April. I am a believer through and through. Some of that is my bohemian ancestry. I am also bohemian. I love it. Very superstitious lot, the Bohemians. I'm bohemian and German. I don't know. It's an odd combination. But also I see dead people. I do not see dead people. And have most of my life been able to sense them. Until we moved into this house, I had never actually been around a haunted house. It started in the basement for me. The laundry machines were down there. With a newborn baby and cloth diapers, I was down there a lot. Edwin, our cat, had his litter box down there too and used it just fine. Later that summer, for my 30th birthday, we adopted Indiana, our first wonder dog. He used to go down there and dig through the dirty clothes from the upstairs laundry chute, looking for anything with food on it, like baby bibs. That's awesome. And chew them up. Nothing ever bothered those animals, not once. When I was down there, I felt angry eyes were watching me, somehow judging me. At first, I chalked it up to overactive imagination. New house, new baby, and I'm up every 3 hours nursing all night long, not napping during the day because who naps when you've got a 3-hour window to get dishes done, walk the dog, laundry, dust, fold, clothes, etc. I just ran and ran trying to find my new balance in homeowner motherhood. But even after A was sleeping through the night and I got a part-time job evenings, I still felt that watchfulness down there. Plus, I had especially felt an anger on the opposite side of the basement where the old workbench was, complete with pegboard with outline tools. I had stowed some of our totes in there, most of my art supplies, which I had hoped to unpack in that space and make into a little art studio for myself. Every time I went back there, I would try to master my uneasiness, try to do a little unpacking and setting up on the workbench, but no dice. I couldn't take the creepy sense of anger that just felt like it was boring into me. It was as if someone was standing behind me just giving me the world's greatest stink eye. It was creepy. 10 minutes was about all I could take, and I'd hustle back upstairs. I never saw anything or heard anything. I just felt it every time. One night, while Daddy was making dinner and I was actually home, I asked him if he felt anything down there. He said, "You do too?" I thought it was just me. I'm so glad I'm not the only one. I was afraid to say anything. This is coming from a man who knows his wife has a, quote, third eye. We talked about it, and just doing this made us both feel a lot better about it, but we still didn't know what to do.
Ooh.
And that's where we're going to leave it.
Well, I look forward to hearing the second part.
Ooh.
Yeah, thank you so much, Nikki. We really appreciate it. If you want to have your ghost story read on Ghostly Podcast, you just email us at info@ghostlypodcast.com or use the contact us form on ghostlypodcast.com. Or one of our favorite ways to get ghost stories is in the actual mail. P.O. Box number 264, Geneva, Illinois, 60134. As I always say, you're never going to remember all that, so just go to ghostlypodcast.com and go to the footer.
Awesome. Let's, we got to do those polls.
Okay, I guess so.
You know what time it is.
Yeah.
In our last episode, we talked about the Anchorage Hotel.
We did, yeah.
We did. Our flying artwork, all sorts of craziness. So yeses were 59.2%. Whoa. No was 40.8%.
Wow. I still think that's pretty close, though. But yeah.
I don't know. We haven't had one that split in a while.
Yeah. And overall, the overall rating is 3.1%.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, moderately.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I mean, the people weren't strong because they can go from 1 to 10, right?
Yep,
so
exactly,
3 means, so people said yes, but they weren't like super strong.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Yeah. All right. Are you ready for a ghost story?
I'm always ready for a ghost story.
Okay, here we go.
It's time for a spooky tale from our bad girl.
Daddy moved us here because he's in charge of making a new lighthouse. The government said the old one wasn't good and someone needed to build a better one. We moved here from Maine, and it's so warm here. My name is Eliza, and I'm 13 years old. My older sister is Mary, and she's 15, and our baby sister is Carrie. She's really a baby, only 4, but we love her. She always wants to tag along when we play. I haven't seen her in a long time, though. One of our favorite games is to ride what we call the roller coaster. There is a railway cart for the supplies for the lighthouse that takes the supplies from the ships to the site. We love riding the cart down to the water. Then we bring it back up and ride it down again. There's a board at the bottom that stops it. But I think something happened, because one day when we went down, the board was gone and we went into the water. It was me, Eliza, Carrie, and our friend whose dad worked on the site. But now everyone seems to be gone except for Eliza, our friend, and me. We can't find Carrie or Mommy or Daddy. Sometimes there's people around and I try to talk to them, but they just scream at me. Eliza says we died, and that's why everyone we know is gone. She says I need to stop trying to talk to people and scaring them. But I don't think she's right. I know if I keep looking, I'm going to find our parents and Carrie. I have to.
Wow. Okay. I see where you went there. You did a reverse ghost story.
I know. I haven't done a from the ghost point of view in a while.
Yeah. So how much of this is based on any factual thing?
The story of the girls playing, those names, all of that is them
dying.
All them dying. All of that is true.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, well, we're going to take a short break, and when we return, we're going to talk about the history of the St. Augustine Lighthouse.
Facts. Facts. From a skeptic point of view. Facts. Facts. He presents it all to you. Facts. Facts. Facts.
All right, it's time for the Pat Facts.
Pat Facts.
So the first known European to have explored the coast of Florida was the Spanish explorer and governor of Puerto Rico, Juan Ponce de Leon.
Ponce de Leon.
Ponce de Leon, yeah.
Got it.
Who likely ventured in 1513 as far north as St. Augustine. Probably. Juan Ponce names what he thought was an island, La Florida, and claiming it for the Spanish crown. Pedro Mendez de Avilés founded St. Augustine in 1565.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's old.
Yeah, it is definitely really old, especially for Florida. It's like you don't expect that.
Yeah, I don't think of Florida as old, but it is. Yeah. I mean, obviously it was there.
Yeah. But like the buildings and stuff there. St. Augustine is the second oldest continuously inhabited city of European origin in the United States territory after San Juan, Puerto Rico, which was founded in 1521. So pretty close.
Yeah.
St. Augustine was the site of the first lighthouse established in Florida by the new territorial American government in 1824. According to some archival records and maps, this official American lighthouse was placed on the site of an earlier watchtower built by the Spanish as early as the late 16th century. And there's some reason to believe that there's been a lighthouse at this location for hundreds of years.
Yeah, the one thing I read, and I don't know if, again, it's all speculation, was that it was a Spanish watchtower or whatever, but that it had a light on it. But it wasn't a light tower.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, they kind of refer to it as one, and
a light tower, lighthouse.
Well, light tower too. It still works,
it had a light tower, and then they made it like I don't know.
St. Augustine went back and forth with French, British, or Spanish control throughout the time that it was in existence. Facing erosion and a changing coastline, the old tower crashed into the sea in 1880, but not before a new lighthouse was lit.
Where the 3 girls were there.
Oh, was that during that
That was
time?
their dad. He was
okay.
leading the build for that.
Ah, yes. Early lamps in the first tower burned lard oil.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. A lot of whale oil and stuff like that.
Yeah, okay.
Multiple lamps with silver reflectors were replaced by a fourth order Fresnel lens in 1855, greatly improving the lighthouse's range and eliminating some maintenance issues.
Okay.
At the beginning of the Civil War, future Mayor Paul Arnoux, a local Menorcan harbor master, along with the lightkeeper, a woman named Maria Mestre de los Dolores Andrew. That's a long name there. Who in this role became the first Hispanic American woman to serve in the Coast Guard.
Cool.
Removed the lens from the old lighthouse and hid it in order to block Union shipping lanes, as well as to help blockade runners remain hidden.
Oh.
So they hid the lens so no one could see it then.
I gotcha.
Because they could shine a light in it and it would reflect back then.
So it sounds like they were in the Confederacy.
Oh, yeah, definitely. The lens and clock works were recovered after Arnoux was held captive on a ship offshore and forced to reveal their location.
Oh, wow.
That sounds like pirate stuff
so
there.
dramatic.
Which is another thing I want to do on Ghostly X's Pirates.
Oh, yeah.
Or maybe we'll bring that to Ghostly. Who
We'll
knows?
see.
By 1870, beach erosion was threatening the first lighthouse. Construction on the new light tower began in 1871 during Florida's Reconstruction period. So this is the time you were talking about.
Yeah, the girls died, I believe, in 1873.
Yeah. So the new tower was completed in 1874 and put into service with a new first order Fresnel lens. It was lit for the first time in October by keeper William Russell. Russell was the first lighthouse keeper in the new tower and the only keeper to have worked both towers. For 20 years, the site was manned by head keeper William H. Harn of Philadelphia. Major Harn was a Union war hero who had commanded his own battery at the Battle of Gettysburg. With his wife, Kate Skillen Harn of Maine, he had 6 daughters. So this is the one you're talking about, right?
Mm-hmm.
On August 31st of 1886,
this was after. Sorry.
Okay. The Charleston earthquake caused the tower to sway violently, according to Keeper's log, but there was no recorded damage. Man, I know about that kind of stuff now.
Yes,
my house was shaking violently. In 1885, after many experiments with different types of oils, the lamp was converted from lard oil to kerosene. During World War II, Coast Guard men and women trained in St. Augustine and used the lighthouse as a lookout post for enemy ships and submarines which frequented the coastline. So people don't think about this. During World War II, there were several attempts for the Germans getting here.
Really?
In subs.
I had no idea.
Several attempts. There's actually one pretty famous one around New York.
Huh.
Yeah. In 1907, indoor plumbing reached the light station,
Nice.
finally, followed by electricity in the keeper's quarters in 1925. The light itself was electrified. It was electrified in 1936 and automated in 1955. So,
wow.
Yeah, when a light becomes automated, though, they really didn't need as many people to live there.
Sure.
Positions for 3 keepers slowly dwindled down to 2 and then to 1. No longer housing lighthouse families by 1960s. The keeper's house was rented to local residents. Eventually, it was declared surplus, and St. Johns County bought it in 1970. And in that year, the house suffered a devastating fire at the hands of an unknown arsonist. In 1994, the Lighthouse Museum of St. Augustine opened full-time to the public. And the St. Augustine Lighthouse and Maritime Museum aims to preserve local maritime history. It keeps alive the story of the nation's oldest port and connect young people to the marine sciences.
Yep, you can go and you can walk up it and see it and learn about it. It's really, really great.
There's been several restorations that have happened, but I just didn't want to get into all that. So yeah. All right. So do you have anything to add, Rebecca?
No, you did a great job.
All right. So I think we're going to take another break and then we'll get to the debate. All right, we're back, and it's time for a debate.
All right, let's get into it.
All right.
So we're going to start with the ghost story, right? Because I gave us that ghost story of the three sisters, and I thought it'd be really good to dive further into it. So it is true that 3 girls died at the site while riding their makeshift roller coaster.
Okay.
So according to the St. Augustine Lighthouse.org website, on July 10th, 1873, the 3 Pittee sisters, I don't know if it's Pittee, Pittee sisters.
It's a pity, though.
Mary, 15, Eliza, 13, and Carrie, 4, along with an unknown African-American girl who was 10. And for many years, that girl was never included in any of the stories. She wasn't included in the newspaper, but they have found evidence of her.
Okay.
And we don't know her name. And her father may have worked on the site. We're riding in the cart as normal. The wooden board that stopped the cart from going into the water was, for some reason, not in place. The cart carrying the girls flipped into the water, trapping the girls underneath. Mr. Dan Sessions, a young African-American worker, witnessed the tragic event and raced to the water. When he reached the cart, using all his strength, he lifted it from atop the girls. By this time, 3 of the 4 girls had drowned. The only survivor was the youngest, Carrie. In the days after the accident, the construction site as well as the town shut down for the funeral of the girls. Following the funeral, the Pitt family returned to Maine to lay their daughters to rest in their hometown. Staff researchers have not yet been able to find the final resting place of the young African-American girl. There are many sightings of the little girls at the lighthouse over the years. I have read accounts from workers, and they always say that the girls are typically playful spirits. So they don't have like too many negative things.
Sure.
So one of the most common reports is that people hear giggling. They hear giggling in the woods by where the old lighthouse house was, the keeper house. Yeah. The one that burned down. Sure. That's where they lived. So like in the woods, kind of where it has been rebuilt, but in that area. But also one worker claimed he heard giggling at the top of the lighthouse itself, which is another place where they're seen when he was closing up. But when he went up to find the source of it, there was no one there. So what do you think about giggling?
Well, when I was doing my research, I found this thing about researcher Joe Nickel, who investigated the lighthouse. He has written that there's no credible evidence that the lighthouse is haunted. He noted that supposed spooky noises or sounds from the tower have mundane explanations such as seagulls or the wind.
Ooh, okay.
So I'm going to say that I could understand where a seagull might sound like a little girl laughing sometimes. Sure. So I'm going to go with that, I think. And I'm going to probably give this one a 0 then, just because. And
I could see that with the seagulls, especially if it's a visitor, like someone that isn't around there a whole lot, where they might not be used to the sounds. But the fact that it was a worker, somebody that worked there, and he claimed to hear the giggling, like you would think if it was a seagull, like he would know that noise.
Well, it doesn't mean the seagulls are there all the time. I mean, it might be an area where seagulls don't go very often. There's probably not much food because it was automated for such a long time now. So,
yeah, I don't know. For me, I give it a 6.
Okay.
I feel like it's definitely a possibility that's what he heard.
Okay.
All right, another report of the girls that I found fun, actually. And we don't often get fun ghost stories.
Mm-hmm.
So here we go. This was on a ghost tour with Dark of the Moon, which is the only tour that is allowed inside the lighthouse, I believe. So there's several ghost tour companies that do lighthouse tours, but only one of them actually lets you go into the properties.
Okay.
So they said, on another tour, a guide found a group of young women in the basement of the keeper's home. One of the young women rented an EF meter to measure the electrical activity caused by spirits. The young woman holding the meter asked the girls if they wanted to play hide and seek. The meters spiked. The women wandered the basement searching for the hiding girls, finally finding meter activity under the spiral staircase leading to the main floor. Excitedly, she said she found them and asked if they wanted to play again. Like before, the meter spiked. Once again, the young woman searched the basement for the girls and after several minutes found electrical energy near the children's play table. About that time, another set of guests came into the basement and reportedly the energy dissipated.
You know, I don't really have good experiences with those EMFs. They go off all the time and there's no rhyme or reason for it. You know, like where there wouldn't be a ghost, you know, and I don't know. It just, to me, it's just electrical stuff in the air that sometimes it picks it up, sometimes it doesn't. And it could be a cell phone. It could be a bunch of other things that it could be picking up. I mean, how often would you go on a ghost tour and not have your phone on? You'd have your phone on all the time. And sometimes if you hold it wrong, if you do something wrong, it can pick it up. So I don't know if these people are experienced in using EMFs, or maybe this is their first time, or maybe this is the first time using this particular EMF. So there's a lot of different variables that I can't speak for. So I'm going to give it a 1.
Okay. I'm going to give it a 7 because the one thing that I find interesting is that, you know, because it is true, there's a lot of things that can set off an EMF. Like that is true. You know, it could be your phone, it could be some electrical wiring, something like that. So you do have to be really careful when you're using an EMF meter. But the fact that it responded to their voice, to the questions that they asked. So in other words, if you're standing in the same spot and you ask a question and then all of a sudden it decides to activate, I don't know, gives it a little bit more credibility to me, you know, that it could be paranormal.
Okay.
All right, I want to do one more for the girls.
Okay.
And this, because again, they're kind of like the big ghosts
Sure.
for the site. And that is the photo that I shared with you. So visitors to the lighthouse describe catching flashes of a young girl dressed in old era clothing, gazing out from the lighthouse door or standing by the upstairs window. So the story of the picture, and there'll be definitely a link in our show notes if you want to go and look at it. The story of the picture is that back in 2009, a cell tower technician snapped a photo of him and his coworker with the lighthouse in the background. One of the girls photobombed the photo and was seen wearing a long dress, sporting long hair, and standing alone atop the St. Augustine's Lighthouse observation deck.
Yeah. This picture that you sent me, so this is the one where she's on the top, right?
Yes.
So if you look at the other side of the picture, there's something else there too. So it's like a ledge or something like that. I'm thinking that this is the same thing on the right-hand side. It's just the way that the camera is pointing that it makes it look different. Or maybe there's a bird or something that just happens to be going by at that time or something when they snap the picture. So I'm going to say I don't feel that this is anything.
Okay, the bird thing could be something. I see what you're saying. I mean, to me, it definitely looks like a girl. Like, I understand why, you know, people think that. But you do there is something in what you're saying as far as like, that could be, I don't know, man. When they do the zoom up, though, it's really creepy.
Yeah, but if you do a zoom up yourself and take away that the dark spot on the top, it looks exactly like the other thing on the other side of the lighthouse.
I don't know if it looks exactly like it, but
Well, I mean, it could be the same exact thing, just on a different spot and with a different angle.
yeah.
So I'm going to have to go 0 on that one.
All right. I'm gonna give it a 6.
Okay.
I'll give you the 6.
All right.
But definitely go and check that out. Again, I'll put the link in there. There's one link I think that has both of them in it. So I'll put
Okay.
that in there. Okay, let's move on to the other big ghost. I mean,
Okay.
there's other. Well, let's just say this. So the most other commonly seen spirit is the man in blue, or sometimes he's just called the man. It could be
Becky
that,
Lynch?
yeah. It could be that there are 2 different ones, but people aren't really clear about that. And while the girls are seen as positive, harmless spirits, the man is typically seen as a shadow man and is perceived as menacing. He smells of cigars and gives people a foreboding feeling. And this one is interesting because we don't actually know for sure who the spirit is. There's
Okay.
actually a few different theories. So one of them is that it's the ghost of William Russell, who was the lighthouse keeper in the 1850s. Russell was known for his passionate and protective personality. People believe he's only trying to look after his home and place of work, even if it means scaring off a few visitors. A more likely culprit is another lighthouse keeper by the name of Joseph Andrew. According to legend, Andrew suffered a fatal accident when he fell from the tower in 1859. His death was so sudden, many argue he didn't realize he had died. So for over 100 years, his spirit has been living in his old quarters, smoking a cigar to pass the time. This is a theory I saw probably the most often in my research. But there's actually another one
Okay.
that I read in an interview of a current employee, or at least they were within the last few years or so. And this is where our story is going to come from. So they believe that the man is Peter Rasmussen. He was the longest serving lighthouse keeper, working 23 years in the job in the early 1900s. Washburn is the name of the employee. Says Rasmussen sends a cherry tobacco scent throughout the lighthouse, especially if another guest insults him. And she tells a story where that happened. So someone, a visitor, called Peter Rasmussen, the ghost, right? Stupid. I don't know why you would call a ghost stupid, but he did. And so Washburn said, and as we were exiting the room that we were in, he stopped right in the doorway. I went back to check on him, and I got to the other side of the doorway. There was just this whiff of cherry tobacco, like someone had walked through the doorway between us. I think that was Peter just saying, "Hey, I got my eye on you. Do not insult me again."
Okay. Well, I mean, I'm just going to say that inside the lighthouse, unless you're at the top, there's not many windows. There's a couple, but there's not many, and none of them let in wind, I believe. So I don't believe there's much fresh air in there. And I believe it is possible that if there was a heavy smoker in there, that they infused the bricks with the smoke smell.
Ooh.
So this one I'm gonna give a 0 on, just because I think that that's possible. Whenever there's a possibility, I'm always going to go with the possibility of something else.
Gotcha. I mean, to me, though, it seems a little weird that people smell it just in certain times, not like all the time. Like if you're an employee there, if you're like, oh yeah, every time I walk through this doorway, I smell the cigar smoke, or on certain days, I always smell it. That would be one thing. But if it's like, no, there was like, we were just talking about this ghost, and then all of a sudden his smell shows up. And again, there are reports of that cigar smell in other places. This is just the one story that I picked, but to even again, just going with this story, I feel like it, there's a little bit to it. So I'm going to give it a 6.
So sometimes when the sun heats up the brick, it can smell that way. So that's why I'm saying that. So they might walk in when the sun isn't hitting it directly or something. And then, yeah. Anyways. Okay.
All right. And we got one more.
Okay.
And that's another photo.
Yes.
And this is supposedly of this shadow man. So again, we're not sure, which of these men it could be. And I'm sure there's other candidates too. But yeah, so we've got another photo that I don't really have a lot of I don't have the backstory like I do
Sure.
with the other picture. So this is just a visitor or an employee or somebody that was taking a photo looking up the spiral staircase to the top of the lighthouse.
Looking down, it looks like.
And I thought they were looking up, and then the shadow man, looks like
looking
he's looking down.
They're looking down in that picture.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
From the top looking down.
It's flipping me out. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, whatever way it is, there's a shadow man.
Yeah.
In the photo.
For this one, it's a really good one. I would probably need the original photo to be able to look at it to analyze this one. Mm-hmm. Because it does look like a person's leaning over like the banister or something like that. I can't tell if it's somebody that like just a shadow of a person actually doing that or what. So I'm going to have to give this one a 2 because I would need more information for this one.
Well, and it's creepy because it's only like 2 floors down. It's not like it's way down where you could be like, oh,
it's distorted.
It's distorted or whatever. Like, no, like if there was a person leaning over there, I think you would see that, or you'd see more of them as a person than just.
I don't know
the
for
black
sure.
shadow.
I don't know for sure because I'm not there and I don't know what it looks like there. So I'm gonna have to. I'm gonna have to give it a 2. Yeah,
that was nice.
Well, it's just because I can't really, say because I would want to zoom in on the real picture and zooming in on a scan of the picture, or, it's just it's not the same.
Yeah.
So,
I give this one an 8. It's creepy.
8. Okay.
Yeah, super creepy. Sometimes we do these stories and I don't always have photos.
Yeah, that's true.
So when a place has photos, that's something.
And I did give it credit for, for having a photo, and that's why I gave it a 2.
Yeah.
So
acknowledged.
I acknowledged it. Okay. So what would be your overall rating then, Rebecca?
Okay. So my overall rating, I gave a lot of 6s, I feel like, but I gave maybe a couple 7s and an 8. So I'm going to go with 7.
Okay.
Yeah.
For me, I'm going to go 1 because I gave a 2, I gave a 1 and some zeros. So.
Okay.
But that brings us to the closing arguments. This is our last chance to convince you to vote our way. We're each given 1 minute of uninterrupted time. We will time each other on our cell phones to keep each other honest. Ooh. Rebecca, are you ready?
I am ready.
And go.
All right. So, yeah, there's a lot of stories, and I was happy that I was able to find quite a few specific stories. There was even some I didn't have time to include, but I think the fact that there were the photos, I really wanted to focus on those because to me, when we have these supposedly haunted places, but then I can't even find any photos that anyone's posted with evidence. It's a little bit harder sometimes to kind of go with those. But this one, we have some documented deaths. We definitely have, people, multiple stories about the girls specifically and the man. To me, it all adds up to haunted.
All right.
There you go.
Okay.
All right. Are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
And go.
All right. So a lighthouse is a place, especially nowadays, that people haven't lived in for a long time. And I think that gives it this kind of feeling that it's a little bit spooky. So I think that that's a lot of what people are going for here. Now, the 2 pictures in question, the one I think I have a pretty good explanation for. I think it's a bird or some kind of outside source that's reflecting on the head that makes it look like it's hair, and the rest of the thing isn't the little girl. It looks like the railing that they have on the other side. The other photo, I can't say much because I don't have it here in front of me, so that doesn't mean that I can't dispute it, but I just don't have the evidence in front of me to be able to do it. So I'm gonna say that I do not believe this is haunted.
Ooh, I actually think you took more time than I did by like a second.
Yeah, but I didn't take my full minute still. So. All right, I want to thank everyone so much for listening. Please share us with your friends and family, as word of mouth is our best advertisement. Remember to hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so yet. And we have a bunch of VIP producers that I would like to give a shout out to, like we always do. We have Andrew,
Alicia,
Becky,
Kim,
Ernie,
Cindy,
Kevin,
Jessica,
Alice,
Aaron,
Hope,
and Candy.
and on the next episode of Ghostly, we're going to be talking about this. I'm really excited about this because I think we've both been there.
Yeah, no, I've seen the outside.
What? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I thought that was going to be something good, but it's the Tower of London. It's got a lot of history. It used to be like their White House, right?
Yeah, no, I'm excited. There's a lot of I'm sorry, everybody. You're going to need to buckle in for a good history, I think.
Yeah.
I think good
I'll
history
try to keep
and
the
good
history
ghost
short,
story.
though. I'll try to keep it short.
No, well, whatever much you need.
Yeah, but it comes out on March 20th, and until then, stay ghostly
Bye.
and stay out of tornadoes.
Nope. Bye, everybody.